Hey guys.
Hi everyone.
What's up? Alright, so we've been meaning to do a video where we talk about the whole process that we went through in terms of the whole UK relocation from Zimbabwe. With us, where we started was with the passports, because we hadn't traveled in quite some time before this whole thing, so we didn't have any valid passports, so we had to start with our passports. That being said, if you're in Zimbabwe, it's $120 for the regular one, which would take
7 days.
7 days exactly. And the process is quite efficient. It's not like it used to be back then.
The express one.
The express one, it's $220 and it takes 48 hours.
48 hours.
But if you're doing this process, mind you, it's going to be expensive. Like the expenses involved in the whole thing is quite a lot. So don't do an express passport when you're not traveling tomorrow. Just do the regular one that will take 7 days. After the passports, you will need, I think the thing that we would probably advise is that you register for your IELTS examination. And your IELTS just basically tests your English proficiency. If you do have a degree, there's some degrees that can be evaluated and converted so that you get an exemption in terms of doing that whole English assessment. IELTS examinations, it's IELTS UKVI General. Make sure you write UKVI General because it's specific for UK immigration. So it's specific for that and it's general. Don't write IELTS General paper. Initially, when I was doing the process, I registered for that mistakenly. After that, we switched. She was now the main applicant, and then we registered for the correct one. Got a refund on my one, but then if you make a mistake, if you get a refund, I think you get 2/3 of your money back. And then with IELTS, if you feel like there's a need, then you can get a tutor. But in general, I feel like there's not really much of a need. Like, there's a lot of material out there that you can actually use. She wrote out, I didn't, so I think she has a bit more of an idea in terms of that.
Okay, so with IELTS, what I did, after registering, you go on your IELTS page and then you go under date and location, if I remember correctly. When you go there, it will bring out a page where you will see some mock tests. So IELTS gives you mock tests that you can practice with. So it's better for you to use the IELTS mock test, and you choose the mock test that's like a real one, because there's a practice one and a real one. So go for the real one so that you get a feel of how it is being in an actual exam. So when you're using that mock test, you can also use tutorials on YouTube from Jay and Asia, guys like Mark and other people. Those guys are great, especially Jay. He is really good with all of them, the listening, the writing, the reading, and the speaking one. So try to use those guys, you will not go wrong. And I also had a coach. He was coaching me the whole time. I would go 6 hours without eating, without resting, and I'll be so fatigued and tired.
I don't think you're supposed to say that on
It's true, but it really helped me.
It's true that it's abuse.
I know that you are helping me. It really helped me a lot, because when I started, I didn't know if I was going to pass, but I did.
Honestly, that's why we said we'll talk about like the emotional aspect and everything else. I feel like whenever I do something in life, I have to do it like wholeheartedly.
Proper.
When we're doing this whole UK visa relocation thing, we had no backup plan. Like, if it failed, then I think we're just gonna go and stay with my parents or something like that, because literally we gave it our all. Also, at the same time, like with stock for business and stuff, you were selling things, but then you had to pay for certain things in terms of expenses and stuff. So like business would have taken time to really revive again, in terms of building up stock and all of that. So it was one of those things where we didn't have a backup plan, and you know, we just basically went all in terms of that. I already had and have a UK budget. I know how much I pay for rent. I know how much I pay for groceries and all of that. So whatever I do, I actually visualize myself in that place, and you know, doing whatever it is that I want to do, or having whatever it is that I want to achieve.
Like a lot.
So Yeah, so I would advise that as well. I don't think that there's no space really to be negative about this.
Yeah.
Leave room, like we didn't tell JJ up until our visas came out, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't tell JJ up until when we went for the biometrics. We just told him that we're going for biometrics. When we went for the TB test, we just told him that we're going to get our TB test done or something
We're
like
going
that.
to the
But
doctors.
we never, exactly. But we never gave him like the specific. So there is room for prudence. I'm not saying, don't be prudent as especially with your children and stuff. But then also, fight the good fight of faith.
Yeah.
So really believe in what you're doing and believe in I think a lot of times, like I always say, we try and convince God in prayer, and we talk about twisting the arm of God and wrestling and contending with God and so forth. And we miss the point that as much as you want this, God wants it for you way more than you feel like you want it for yourself.
Yeah, it's
just imagine how much you really want something. And then think about how good God is to the extent that he wants something for you more than you want it for yourself.
It's true.
The reason I say that is we jeopardize ourselves all the time. Like we self-sabotage ourselves in a lot of things all the times. Like in relationships, you can find yourself, like when you look back at times, you think, I had a good girlfriend, I had a good boyfriend, I was in this wonderful relationship, but then I did something that was just so like unnecessary and didn't make sense. Or I just broke up with her because I was bored or something like that. So you look back and then you realize how many good things have I sabotaged. But yet when God wants something for you, he's not going to foil those plans. It's only you that's going to foil those plans, because halfway through you get tired, halfway through you think, oh, this is not worth it, or something like that. But God wants it for you so much more than you want it for yourself.
That's true.
I digress. So the next thing after IELTS, you've got
the TB test.
You've got the TB test. So the TB test is just basically, you need to check whatever country you're from. You need to check if you are supposed to get a TB test done. From Zimbabwe, you're supposed to get a TB test done if you're going to be in the UK for more than 6 months. So if you're going on a visitor's visa or something like that, which is less than 6 months, then there's no need. But if it's over 6 months, you're going to stay in the UK for over 6 months, then you're supposed to get a TB test done. That's done through the IOM. And do you remember how much it was? 165?
Was it
165? Yeah, it's 165 for adults, and I think $85, $75 for children. Yeah. So children are not going to get like the x-ray done, but they just do a consultation with the doctor. He listens for the heartbeat and just, asks a few questions to the parents and so forth. And then for adults now, you're gonna do the consultation, and then after that you're gonna do the x-ray as well. The results come out the next day, so it's a pretty fast turnaround. TB test is valid for 6 months, and the police clearance is valid for 6 months as well. With things that are valid for 6 months, you want to do them a bit later on in the process so that they don't expire before you finished everything else, like your IELTS and stuff. But at the same time, with your TB test now, you don't want to do it too late as well, because if it comes out with certain inconsistencies that are associated with TB but not necessarily TB, then they have to do a more thorough test where they take your sputum samples for a period of 3 days. So you'll be going 3 consecutive days. You'll be going in the mornings, I think before you eat or something like that, and then they'll be taking these samples, and then you then get the results after like 8 weeks.
I think so.
Yes, after like 8 weeks, that's when you get the results. So that will really mess up your timeline if you try and do that like towards the end, right towards the end. I know some people that I learned with at St. John Ambulance that had that issue as well. So you need to be careful for that one. Then after that, you've got your police clearance. Your police clearance, it's basically for any country that you've recently stayed in for a period of over 1 year. You're supposed to get a police clearance just to show that you're in good standing in that country and so forth, no criminal record. In Zimbabwe, it's a very simple process. There's not much that you pay for it. Then it takes how long? Like a week, 10 days. 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10
Yeah,
days.
7 to 10 days. So it doesn't really take long to do that. When you go for the police clearance, I'm sure that will probably apply for any country. Make sure you state that it is for UK visa application.
Yeah.
Because on the police clearance, they write to be presented to UK authorities or UK immigration or something like that. So make sure that you tell them what it is for, because there's another one that's for local purposes and there's another one that's for international purposes. So make sure that you give them the correct information. So outside of that, we've got our passports, our outs, our police clearance, our TB test. What's another thing?
COS.
Right. So now you begin to apply when you've got your documents together, and you begin to apply to different employers. And then once you're successful with an employer, then they issue to you an offer letter. And once you've accepted that offer, then they then process your application with the Home Affairs in order to issue you a COS, which is your certificate of sponsorship.
Yeah.
Care certificate, we forgot about that.
Yeah.
That should have been one of the first things. So the care certificate, the popular opinion is Red Cross and St. John. So I'll just give a bit of insight in terms of what I know about it. So Red Cross is more extensive, like in terms of what you learn, the exposure and everything. How I've seen it with the people that I know that went to Red Cross, it seems like they got way more exposure. It takes longer. So the downside of it is that it takes longer. It's being more extensive. It's much more of a process in terms of the time, and you're kind of racing against time. And a lot of us also have our companies or jobs or whatever we'll be going to, so we don't really have the time to go through a 3 months, 4 months or whatever course to attain this thing, because we still got our lives happening, we still got children, we still have families that we need to feed and all of that as well. So that's the downside of that. The upside is the exposure. It's good to get that experience because it will greatly help you when you go that side, and then you won't have as much of a culture shock on the job as well. St. John was great environment, loved it. So really wonderful, like very vibrant teachers and everything. Interesting bunch of people, like the way they do their things as well. It's really compact into a very short period of time with a lot of information. If you're doing day classes, it's 2 weeks. If you're doing evening classes, it's 3 weeks. So I did 3 weeks, but then it really felt like a really short time in terms of, you spend the whole day at work, then you go there and you do a few hours, and everybody's tired as well at this time. So it was really hectic, and it was really, I remember there was a Sunday that I was tired, and then I didn't go to school.
He bunked.
Yeah. So the next day I went, and I thought I'll be all right. I felt like they've been going for a week without me. And a few people face the same challenge, like the days that they didn't come as well. Like the next day, so much has happened. So those are the two options that are really popular and stuff. Another demerit of these two is that they're expensive, because St. John's is about maybe
300 and something.
Yeah, maybe like 300 and something. And then I'm not sure how much Red Cross is. It's like got different segments and different payments and so forth, but I'm sure it's about the same amount or a little more. But there are also online courses that you can do that will still get the job done in terms of, I mean, sometimes maybe Red Cross and St. John look better to the employer, but there's so many other things that you can do to look like a good prospect to the employer as well. So there are online courses that you can do. So I went to St. John. Initially, when we started the process, I thought about relocating to the UK. And because I had thought about it, and this was the route that was available, I didn't want to push that on my wife. So it was something that I had a personal conviction for. And I'm not someone that shies away from care work or anything. I believe that I'm someone who's sent to serve anyway. I love serving, so in whatever way possible, there's no one I look down upon or anything. There was actually a time in Zim when we were running ministry, when we were going to, we were actually under another pastor at that time. And I actually went about to care homes trying to volunteer so that I would actually do free care work in Zimbabwe. But I was rejected because people are very skeptic and they see, sadly enough, they see a black person going to care homes, and most of them, because Zimbabweans don't send, like black Zimbabweans don't send their parents to care homes, so predominantly these care homes are they have white people there. So because of that, they feel like maybe this black person has come to do something or to still has some sort of an agenda. So I ended up leaving it alone. Long story short, after going to St. John and everything, I think the day before I was to write my examinations, that's when we then found out, like, the sponsor that we were gonna go with initially, which is not the sponsor we ended up going with. They didn't have posts for male healthcare workers, so either your wife does it or we just wait a little while. I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna issue out COSs for male carers, but we can just wait it out, or alternatively your wife can become the main applicant. So I sit down, we talk about this. Well, there was nothing to talk about really, because she just said, no, it's perfectly fine, I'm willing to do it, I'll definitely love to do it. I've already set my mind on us relocating anyway, so you don't have to do that. And then we sat down, we got into a deeper conversation, we started seeing how it's got benefits doing it in this way as well, because it opens me up to be able to work other jobs as well. And I've always been more versatile, like in terms of the things that I can do, like a vast range of things. Hence the company name Bits and Bobs. That's how she ended up being the main applicant and the breadwinner of the family.
You just
I will
had to say
emphasize that on every video, like seriously.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm a kept man.
Yo.
So outside of that, so we now have care certificate. So we now have all the documents that are needed.
You didn't mention the online one that you can.
Oh yeah, so the online one now is really cheap, because then she did an online one, and when she did this online care certificate, it took her like a week, which it can even take you, like if you're dedicated and you have nothing else to do, it can take you like just 2-3 days, and you'll be done with it. Depending on which one you go for as well. And so it wasn't that intense. Another advantage to that one as well is really cheap, because then I think I don't know, like,
it's like $24.
$24, yeah, something like that. So yeah, it was $24 up against the care certificate and stuff that I did, which was way more.
Okay.
So once you've done your care certificate, like your St. John's, your Red Cross will need you to do field work for 3 months before they even issue out your certificate to you. So if you do an online one, I still advise that if you do an online one, also find the time to volunteer somewhere and get work experience being a nurse aide up until you get that reference that you've done work experience. It will help you, like in terms of even just understanding the environment, like that you're going to be in, because it'll be really difficult to then just go there on the job, and it's the first time. You'll be very overwhelmed by everything that will be going on and the experiences, and it's not something for the faint-hearted. Like, it's something that you need to kind of build your confidence up towards as well, and prepare for as well. Because if you're not used to like a hospital environment, if you're not used to an environment with sick people and stuff like that, then it can become very nerve-wracking. So it's quite important that you do some volunteer work as well. So yeah,
I did my volunteer work, and it was night shifts.
Yep. So yeah, doing night shifts as well helps in that it preps
it
you
does.
just to understand the reality of like working awkward hours or
Yeah.
long hours, because they're
Yeah.
long shifts that you do that side as well, and you're
True.
driving around and all of this. So it's quite important just to get your body used to that kind of, because you know, when you have like your own company and you're doing your own thing, which we've been doing for years, if you feel like you're not really up for it today, you just call in sick.
Yeah.
And then you answer yourself, and then you just say, no, it's cool, you know, it's fine. You know? So it's really something else, going to an environment now where you play by the rules and you listen to whatever timetable you're given. That's what you work with.
Yeah.
But it's all worth it in the end.
It is. It is.
Then the other things now is, as it pertains, because some people have been asking, how do you relocate as a family? So with us now, we then decided, initially we thought that I was going to go on my own and then they were going to follow, and then she did the process and we're like, no, Jerome definitely needs to go with her. And then it's like there's one person left, so it's not, how much more expensive is it to bring one more person? So ultimately we ended up deciding, and when I say we, I mean like as in the whole family together, because I probably was the only one that was like, no, I'm not in any rush, I can come at any time. But then, you know, women are very emotional. So they don't want to separate, like,
Of course.
either that or they just don't trust us. Like, I don't know
No.
what it is.
Separating is not nice.
Because you don't trust us.
No, I do trust you.
So like in terms of like us relocating together now, so what happens is that she's on tier 2 health and care worker visa, and then I'm on a dependent visa. Dependent is written dependent partner visa, so that's dependent like spouse visa. Then JJ is on a dependent child visa, exactly. So that's how it works out. So when you're on a dependent partner visa, you can apply for any job that you want. You can work on any job. There are no limitations like in terms of what job you're supposed to work or anything. So that's generally how it works. As we find out more information, like how we're going to handle childcare and all of that, we definitely will be sharing all of this, because I know these are the realities or some of the struggles that people go through as well. We've been so blessed that we've got a lot of family in the UK, and especially in the area that we're going to be in and all of that. So we are definitely looking forward to getting assistance from them as well. But we will just be updating, you know, things that we see and we discover as well. With the dependent partner visa, you need to have a marriage certificate. Anything we're giving is not, you know, legal advice or immigration advice. It's just sharing our personal experiences. With us, we produced a marriage certificate, but along with the marriage certificate, so one thing that we would advise is just to oversupply like information. So if they ask for a marriage certificate, give them a marriage certificate and give them your wedding photos if you have them. That's what we did. If they ask for a reference letter from your previous employers, give them a reference letter from the hospitals that you worked for and volunteered at, and give them pictures when you're at work and stuff. We did all of that as well. Just give them as much information as you can, just to prove the validity of your case. Because she was now the main applicant, but I also put my St. John certificate as well for nurse aid, because I had done that and I felt like, you know, it's a plus just putting that as well. For a child, there's not really much that's needed. There's just, you know, the birth record, the idea of the passports of the parents,
Consent letter.
and a consent letter from both the parents for the application, and also stating who the child will travel with to the UK, in which this case is that we'll be traveling together. So yeah, it's simple enough for the child.
Where you can enter extra information.
Oh, right, exactly. So there's a part that provides a provision for you to be able to enter extra information, right, regarding the case. So they'll ask you, have you applied or been to the UK? Have you applied for a visa or been to the UK in the past 10 years? So the answer for both of us was no. But because I grew up in the UK, like the formative part of my life, and then she visited the UK exactly 10 years and a few months ago. So what we did is that we check the boxes, no and no, where it says have you been or have you applied in the past 10 years. So now on the additional information, we then wrote for her that although it is more than 10 years ago, I was in the UK 10 years and something months ago on a visitor's visa, and I left with 1 month still on my visa, just to show that you were in good standing and that you're forthcoming about presenting information.
Sure.
And then with me, I wrote, although it is well over 10 years ago, I grew up in the UK and did my, academics, the prior part of my academics in the UK, and then transferred during high school. So it's just extra information, anything that can tie you better, anything that can present your case better. And if you have relatives, which if you are not even a Zimbabwean, but if you're an African, chances are you have relatives in the UK.
True.
So if you have a mother, a brother, a father, an aunt in the UK, there would also be a place that asks you if you've got relatives in the UK. And then, just think about it and think maybe who has British citizenship. That would make, I feel that's more arguable. So then you just put their details and their addresses as well. So those are some of the things that we would advise. I'm not sure if there's anything else. So just be mindful. That's why I said at the beginning that don't do things that are unnecessary. Like, let's say in terms of the passports, don't pay for premium or express passports when there's no need. It's not like you're traveling tomorrow, because you need money even for air tickets. I mean, we bought our air tickets
the day before yesterday.
But we got our visa some time ago, and we hadn't bought our air tickets yet. So
18 September, that's when we got our visas.
All right, so
we bought the tickets on the 2nd. So we got our tickets on the 2nd of October, but we received our visas on the 18th of September.
All right. So that's why I'm saying you have to be as prudent with money as you can be when you're undergoing this process, because there will be a lot that's demanded of you. And we haven't even finished, because there's also, once you relocate, it's not like you're gonna get your visa stamped into the UK and then they give you a wheelbarrow full of money or something. So you definitely do need to try and exercise some restraint in terms of spending money and stuff. So I think that's it. If there's anything else, any further information that we would think just to present to you and just updating you on the journey and everything in general, we'll definitely do so. Please don't forget to subscribe and share.
Peace.
Peace.